Hello everyone, in this video we will discuss the basics of PN junction. So at first we will discuss about the thermal ionization. So here you can see the structure of silicon. So a silicon atom has 4 valency, that means it has 4 valence electrons in its outer shell. So it can make bonds with 4 of the neighboring silicon atoms. But when silicon atom is at some temperature, let us say T degree Kelvin, so there will be some thermal vibrations in the silicon atom about their equilibrium point. So a small percentage of silicon atoms have large enough vibrational energy to break the covalent bonds. So because of the thermal vibration, some of the covalent bonds are broken and electrons are released. So when electrons are released, they leave behind positive ions, and these are called as holes. These holes as well as the electrons both are free charge carriers, and they can move inside this crystal lattice. And in the next slide we will see how this movement is done. So let us say this is your silicon structure, and one of the bond is broken and an electron is liberated, leaving behind a positive charge or hole. So suppose that there is another electron in the vicinity of this atom, uh, which is liberated by the breaking of the bond. So this atom will also leave behind a positive charge behind. So but this electron will also leave positive charge behind, but this electron may get combined with this positive charge and making this hole electrically neutral. But this positive charge is still there. So what we are seeing, that from here this positive charge has moved to this position. Similarly, there can be another electron in the vicinity where the bond will be broken, and that electron will be recombined with this positive charge. But the electron will leave a positive charge behind. So that is shown here, that this positive charge has captured another electron and become electrically neutral, but the position from where that electron left created another positive charge. So we can see from here that the positive charge has moved from this position to this position. So this shows how a hole moves inside a silicon structure. So the number of electrons generated is equal to the number of holes. So let us say if 10 electrons are generated, so they will leave behind 10 holes which are free to move, and these electrons are also free to move. So in our course we will denote the density of free electrons by N, and we will denote the density of free holes by P. So at thermal equilibrium these two are equal. The number of holes are equal to the number of electrons, and which is a number known as intrinsic carrier density. This intrinsic carrier density Ni is dependent upon the temperature. So the expression of Ni is shown here. Ni square T is equal to C e to the power minus q Eg by kT, where Eg is the energy gap, Q is the charge on an electron, K is Boltzmann constant, and T is temperature. So the value of this is equal to 10 power 20 centimeter minus 6 at 300 degree Kelvin. If Ni square is this much, so what will be Ni? So Ni will be 10 raised to the power 10 per centimeter cube. So this is the density of thermally generated electrons and holes. So electrons will be equal to Ni and holes will be equal to Ni. So this is the density of thermally ionized free charge carriers at 300 degree Kelvin. Now this much density is not sufficient for for considerable current to flow. So some methods are used to increase the conductivity of the semiconductor material. So what we do, we add up some impurity. So if that impurity atom is from is trivalent, for example the acceptor atom, then it will make a p-type semiconductor material, and if this impurity is pentavalent, then it will make an n-type semiconductor material. So let us say we have added an acceptor atom or a trivalent atom. So this, since this has 3 electrons in its valence shell, it will make bonds with 3 of the silicon atoms. So it will make bonds with 3 of the silicon atoms, and one of the bond remains empty because it is a trivalent atom. So let us say in the vicinity there is some bond, similar bond between two silicon atoms. So it might happen that this bond is broken with the help of thermoionization process, as explained earlier. So this electron will get here and will combine to complete the bond. But since initially this was electrically neutral, this all was electrically neutral, now one electron is combined here, so so one negative charge comes on the acceptor atom. So this electron has left the bond, that means a hole will be left behind. So what is the net result? The net result is that as we have added the acceptor atom here, uh, a hole is created here. Okay, so if we add n number of acceptor atoms, we'll get n number of holes. So similar is the case when we add a pentavalent atom in the silicon lattice. So this is known as the donor atom. So it has 5 electrons in its valence shell. So with 4 of the silicon atom it will make bonds, and the fifth electron is free to is liberated and is free to uh, roam in the crystal lattice. So since initially this whole structure was electrically neutral, now an electron has left this position, so a positive charge will appear on the donor atom. So that means if n number of donor atoms are added, so n number of electrons will be liberated. But as you can see here, the holes are created, but there is some charge here, and this charge is not free charge because it is attached to the atom. So negative charge appears across this acceptor atom and positive charge appears on the donor atom, which is not free to move. Now the density of acceptor atom is denoted as Na. That means Na number of acceptor atoms are added per centimeter cube. Okay. So if Na number of acceptor atoms are added, it is the direct equation. If Na number of acceptor atoms per centimeter cube are added, that means Na number of holes are generated. Similarly, if Nd number of donor atoms are added per centimeter cube, that means Nd number of electrons are generated per centimeter cube. Now we have seen two processes of generation of electrons and holes. One is this process, that is by doping we get electrons here and holes here, and another process is the thermal ionization, where we get electrons here and holes here. Now what will be the total number of holes in a material, or what will be the total number of electrons in a material? Let us say we have a semiconductor material and we doped it with acceptor atoms with density Na. So initially there were only thermally ionized electrons and holes. So uh, holes were Ni and electrons were Ni. Now we added the acceptor atoms, so additional holes of density Na are added. So now holes are Na plus Ni and electrons are Ni. So since the range of Na, the value of Na is very high as compared to Ni, so holes becomes in majority and electrons becomes in minority. Now there is a process of recombination, which means that whenever we have a positive charge, so it uh, moves around in the crystal lattice, so it may encounter a negative charge and they may recombine and then become electrically neutral. Um, Similarly, there can be an electron, free electron, which is moving in a crystal lattice, and this can also recombine with the opposite charge and vanishes. Now, similar thing will happen here. So these electrons Ni, which are in minority, will recombine with some of these holes Ni plus Na, and the value of this Ni will reduce. So this will reduce. So this will also reduce, but since the Na is very high as compared to Ni, so this is this becomes very low as compared to the total number of holes. Now let us say we call this combination Ni plus Na or minus the recombinations. So the total number of holes are, let us say, P naught. So these are the total number of holes in a material. Similarly, these were Ni earlier, but then they recombine, and then the total number of electrons are N naught. Now this is a law known as law of mass action, which says that total number of electrons at thermal equilibrium multiplied by total number of holes will be equal to Ni square. So this is a constant value. So this will be very small, this will be large, but the multiplication of this will be a constant value. Now what will be the total charge in the semiconductor material? So let us say we have both P and N type material. So we have a PN junction here. So we have a PN type material. So what will be the total charge inside this material? So this will be 0 because we have not added any extra charge. Any charges that are arising are because of the are from the same atoms which were electrically neutral. So the net charge will be 0. So therefore the charge neutrality says that the total number of negative charge will be equal to total number of positive charge in a medium. So what are the different negative charges appearing? So as we have discussed earlier that whenever an acceptor atom is added, a hole is created, but a negative charge also appears on the acceptor atom. So if we have added Na number of acceptor atoms, so Na number of immobile negative charges will be there. Okay, then what are other negative charges that are due to these electrons and not? So these are the free electrons, and these are not mobile, so these are not free electrons. So these two are the total negative charge inside the medium. So that's why it is Na plus N naught. Similarly, there will be the total positive charge in the material will be the charges on the donor atoms, which will have density of Nd, and plus the holes. So this will be the total positive charge, and holes are P naught. So these are free to move. So Na plus N naught, the number of negative charges should be equal to the number of positive charges. The total number of holes P naught are nothing but Na plus Ni and minus the recombinations. Okay, so as discussed just now, this is the total number of holes. So the range of Na is uh, very wide, but it is between 10 power 14 to 10 power 17, and in some cases this can also go up to 10 power 19 per centimeter cube. So when a material is heavily doped, then the density is 10 power 19 per centimeter cube. So if you compare these values with the values of Ni, which is 10 power 10, so this is this Ni is very small. So we can say that P naught is approximately equal to Na, because these terms can be neglected. So P naught is approximately equal to Na, and if we use this value of P naught and put it here, so we can find out the value of N naught, which is Ni square by Na. Similarly, P naught can be calculated as Ni square by Nd, because N naught is approximately equal to Nd. Now these are very important expressions, as we will be using it to uh, to explain the working of many power electronic devices. So please remember these expressions. Now there is a concept of thermal equilibrium, non-equilibrium, and recombination. So what happens is when the rate of generation of carriers is equal to rate of recombination, then no new carrier will be then the density of the carrier will be constant. Okay, so if the rate at which carriers are generated is the rate at which carriers are recombined, then the densities of free charge carriers remains constant. So we say that the system is in thermal equilibrium. Now what is recombination? Uh, Whenever a free charge carrier is there, suppose a positive charge is there, so either by application of electric field or by thermal energy, these charge uh, will keep on roaming in the crystal lattice or by some other forces. So it might happen that they recombine with with an electron. So this positive charge will vanish. So this process is known as recombination. So similar thing happens for an electron. If a free electron is there and it uh, it combines with a positive charge, so and it vanishes, then we say that this negative charge has recombined. Now, what is non-equilibrium? If suppose we have uh, some n naught number of electrons and we have added some excess free charge carriers by some means. So if by any means we have added delta n number of electrons per centimeter cube, then we will say that this system is in non-equilibrium. The same, and for holes, uh, p if p becomes equal to p naught plus delta p, where delta p is the additional added holes or excess carrier density, then we will say that system is in non-equilibrium. Then there is a concept of recombination, as we have discussed uh, just now. So this is the removal of excess holes and electrons from the device or from the material. So the free electrons are captured by hole, or they are trapped in the crystal imperfection. So they are not free to move anymore, and we say that these electrons have combined. Now the governing equation is this, which says that rate of change of excess carrier density. That means the excess carriers which we have added, the excess electrons or excess holes. So the rate of change of excess carrier density is equal to minus of delta n by tau. So that means this rate is negative. That means if at time t equal to 0 we add delta n electrons, or we somehow add delta p holes, so with time this number will reduce. So this number will reduce until the total number of electrons becomes n naught again. Now by solving this differential equation, we get this equation, which shows that at any time t the excess carrier density delta n is given by uh, this term at the right hand side, which is exponentially decaying. So delta n 0 is the excess carrier density at time t equal to 0, and this value decays exponentially. Now this tau is a very important parameter because it decides the switching frequency of a power electronic device. So how fast we can turn on a device, or how fast we can turn off a power electronic device, is decided by this excess carrier lifetime. To explain this, let me draw a power diode. So what happens in a power diode, when the power diode is turned on, um, this section will be longer. So now when this power diode is turned on, uh, large number of holes are injected into the drift region, and large number of electrons are injected from the right hand side in the drift region. So what will happen, that this drift region will be filled with free charge carriers. The holes will be entering from the left hand side, and the electrons will be entering from the right hand side. So this whole region is filled with large number of charge carriers. Now when we need to switch off this power diode, we have to first remove all these charge carriers which are filled in this depletion drift region. Now to remove these charge carriers, uh, we have to sweep these through the external circuit, but we cannot do so completely by this external circuit. We have to allow some time to for this drift region to get rid of these excess charge carriers. So these excess charge carriers will recombine with the opposite charges, and when this is clear of these excess charge carriers, then only we can switch off this device. So tau plays an important role here. If tau is more time will be taken by these charges to recombine, and switching time will be more. So the switching frequency of this device will be less. Now this tau can be controlled by many methods, as we can see from here, that if the on state loss of this region is increased, then it will reduce tau. Then there are other methods that we provide some centers for recombination of these charges. For example, we provide uh, gold as the impurity in the semiconductor material to provide recombination to act as recombination center. Also, we can control this excess carrier lifetime tau by electron irradiation. So there are different methods which are used to control tau, so that a device can be switched off quickly.
There are two types of currents which we will be dealing with. One is the drift current and one is the diffusion current. So drift current is the current due to the electric field. So suppose we are applying external electric field. So we have E in this direction from left to right. So the holes will move along the electric field and electrons will move opposite to the electric field. So holes will constitute some current and electrons will also constitute some current. So together these currents are combined to form the drift current. So drift current density J, which is nothing but current divided by the cross sectional area of this material. So drift current density is equal to this part plus this part. So this part is current density, drift current density due to electrons, and this part is drift current density due to holes. So this is Q times mu n. N is the number of electrons, E is the applied electric field, and mu n is the mobility of electrons. Similarly, Q mu p is the mobility of holes, and P is the number of holes per centimeter cube. So this is the density. N is the density and P is also the density, and multiplied by electric field E. Now mu n is around 1500 centimeter square per volt second, and mu p is 500 centimeter square per volt second. That means mu p is 1/3 of the mu n. That means holes travel uh, slowly as compared to the electrons. Now another type of current in a semiconductor material is diffusion current. So diffusion current occurs due to the gradient in the free charge carriers. So here we are seeing this is the excess carrier density delta n. So with distance it is decreasing. So that means at this distance it is having lesser density, at this distance it is having higher density, so the current will flow from higher density towards lower density. This is known as diffusion current. So in case of electrons will flow in this direction and current will be in the opposite direction. In case of holes, electrons will flow in this direction, then current will be in the same direction. So drift current density is constituted by two densities by electrons and densities by current densities by holes. So this is the expression for electron current density Q dn. dn is the diffusion constant and dn by dx is the gradient in the charge. This is important because if gradient in the charge is more, then diffusion current will be gradient in the charge density will be more than the diffusion current will be more. So this diffusion current density J diff plus J drift forms the total current density in the material. Now you are well aware of the p-n junctions. So how p-n junction is formed? First n-type material is taken and then from one side doping of acceptor atoms is done to form the p-n junction or vice versa. So at the junction we can have two types of nature of densities. We can have the abrupt change in the density. For example, on the left hand side we have the density of acceptor atoms and on the right hand side we have the density of donor atoms. So on the left hand side we have high holes in the majority and on right hand side we have electrons in the majority. Or we can have a graded junction where these densities are changed gradually, or here in this case linearly. So there are two types of p-n junctions. Now what happens when p-n junction is formed? So when p-n junction is formed, so here holes are more majority carriers and here electrons are majority carriers and here holes are minority carriers and here electrons are minority carriers. So that means holes are in large number here and in less number here. So a diffusion current will flow from left to right, shown by this. Similarly here electrons are more, electrons here are less, so electron will move from right to left across the junction, and as they cross the junction they leave behind positive charge. So electron will leave behind ionized donor atoms. So these charges are not free charge carriers, these are immobile. Similarly, as hole moves from p side to n side, and they will leave behind negative charge carriers. They will leave behind negative charge ionized acceptors. So they are also immobile. Now what will be the density of these charges and these charges? So if Na was the density of acceptor atoms, so Na will be the density of holes also in the p side. Similarly, if Nd is the density of donor atoms, so Nd will be the density of electrons also in the n side. So density means the number of electrons, and density means numbers per centimeter cube. So if we take a centimeter cube, so it will have Nd electrons. Similarly, if we take 1 centimeter cube of this section, so it will have Na holes. So if this so when holes move from p to n or n to p, then in this region no free charge carriers remain. So all of the charge carriers are removed from this region. So only positive charges remain. Similarly, for this case, all of the holes are removed from this region and no holes are left in this region. So only negative charges are remaining. So if Na was the hole density, then each hole will leave behind a negative charge. So the density of negative charges will also be Na. Similarly, the density of positive charges will be Nt. So this region is known as depletion region because there are no charge carriers, only immobile charges. So now as the charges move across this junction, holes move from P to N and electrons move from N to P. They will uncover more positive charge on the N side and more negative charge on the P side. So an electric field will set up which will increase with the movement of charges. Because more of the positive will be uncovered and more of the negative charges will be uncovered. So this growing electric field will oppose this diffusion current because the direction of current is from P to N. So as the electric field made stronger by this motion of charges, at one time this electric field will be strong enough to completely block this diffusion current, and at that time further increase of charges here stops and this PN junction comes into equilibrium. So when PN junction is formed, the net result is that we have one region here which is having no charge carriers.
Now we will end this video here and we will continue with the basics of PN junction in the next video. This is the reference, this is the textbook which you have to refer and from where this material has been taken. So thank you very much. See you in the next video.